Hello everyone, welcome to Sentence Diagramming 101, and this video is about part 2, chapter 6. We are in the clauses section and we have made it to section C. So this is noun clauses. We've already done adverb clauses and we've done adjective clauses, and now we're ready for the big time. Okay, so noun clauses is a clause acting as a noun, meaning it can do anything a noun can do. So remember gerunds and gerunds being able to do all of the noun things? Noun clauses play the same game. They can also do all of the noun things, meaning they can be subjects, they can be objects, they can be objects of the preposition, they can be direct objects, they can be subject complements, they can be object complements, right? They can do anything a noun can do. They just happen to do it as a complete sentence. They're not a complete sentence because they do have a subject and a verb, but they are a dependent clause because they have an extra word. A lot of the time, those extra words will be who, whoever, whom, whomever, what, whatever, which or whose, when, where, why, how. Now, I know these are normally adverb words, but when they are acting as part of a noun clause, then they're not adverbs. So this is where it gets really complicated and you have to start thinking very specifically about what all of the words are doing, how they're functioning together. You may also have, the if, that, whether or not, and as. A lot of the time, if you can leave them out, right, they're called expletives. So if the sentence still works without them. But let's start with the familiar. So we've seen nouns as subjects, we've seen gerunds as subjects, so now we're just going to see an entire clause as a subject. So if you look at this sentence, whoever wrote this episode should die. This whole chapter is about Galaxy Quest, in case you're wondering. If you haven't seen it, it's a delightful movie. It makes fun of Star Trek in the best way. And I love Star Trek, so that's not a bad thing. But, okay, if you look at this, you've got this part in bold. Let's start with that. This whole thing right here, whoever wrote episode. So whoever is a subject, wrote is my transitive verb because wrote what? Wrote the episode. So that's my direct object. This whole chunk is the subject. So it happens to be a noun clause, right? Whoever wrote this episode. But whoever wrote this episode should die. So whoever wrote this episode is my subject, and then should die is my intransitive verb. So I sort of have to chunk it out, right? I use brackets to show clauses. So your brackets are going to be a noun clause. Now, noun clauses have subjects and verbs. So you're like, why isn't it a complete sentence? It's like it is. But if you just say whoever wrote this episode, you're sort of like, well, what about them, right? It still leaves you hanging. It still has that sense of dependent clause. So that's why it's in the noun clauses section. It's not an independent, can stand on its own. Even though the whoever is actually the subject and you don't have an extra word. Like in your adverb clause, you would have a because at the beginning, because whoever wrote this episode, or an adjective clause where you would have, a which or a that or whatever. But let's keep looking at these because they get more complicated. So how they could fly the ship efficiently without training. Oh, God. Okay, so let's look at this. How they could fly the ship efficiently without training. Well, without training is a prepositional phrase, so let's ignore that. Efficiently is an adverb telling me how they did it, right? So I'm going to ignore that. So now I have how they could fly the ship efficiently, or how they could fly the ship. But wait, how? How is an adverb too. So I'm like, okay, cool. They is my subject then. They could fly ship. That's my sentence. So Steve Doe right here, subject, transitive verb, direct object. So all of that has extra stuff, but all of it together is a noun clause. Why? Because it's the subject. Because how they could fly the ship efficiently without training amazed me. So this whole sentence, that's my subject. Amazed is my transitive verb. And then what was amazed me, right? So that's my direct object. So you're sort of looking at how they could fly the ship efficiently and then without training. This diagram is going to all be attached to the flying, but amazed me. So you've got a noun clause, Steve Doe, inside of a main independent clause, Steve Doe. So yeah, noun clauses as subjects, but they're not satisfied with just being subjects. They want to do all the things, so they can also be subject complements. So Jason's problem is this whole thing, that he doesn't think of others. So now this is where I said sometimes that is an expletive, because if I get rid of that, and I say this sentence, Jason's problem is he doesn't think of others. That's also fine, right? It still means the same thing. I'm not losing anything. So that is an expletive, and we'll talk about how you deal with that when we get to the diagram. But it's an extra word. Expletives are extra words that don't perform a grammatical function. But we're looking at problem is my subject, is my linking verb, and then this whole thing, that he doesn't think of others, that whole thing is my subject complement. And then within the noun clause, acting as my subject complement, I have a subject, right? He. And then I have a verb, does think, and then not here is an adverb. And then of others is a prepositional phrase. So here's sort of my slivisk on the bottom. And then I have a sitva, he does think, as part of my noun clause. Moving on, we've got Balthasar's proudest moment is when he brings the crew to help. Okay, so this is his proudest moment, right? That moment when he brings the crew. So moment is my subject, is my linking verb, and then this whole thing is my subject complement. Subject complement starts with a subordinating conjunction, right? When he is my subject, he brings transitive verb because he brings the crew, direct object, the thing he brings. And then to help is an infinitive. It tells me why he brings them, right? Why does he bring that crew? He brings them to help. So this is an infinitive phrase that is going to, it's acting as an adverb because it tells me why. So that's how you would kind of break that. So you've got a Steve Doe at the top with a noun clause, and then that whole sentence is actually a slivisk. But again, noun clauses have to do everything, so there can also be direct objects. So you don't have to have a linking verb. You may have a transitive verb, like Thermians don't understand. What is the thing they don't understand? Why others would lie. So subject, do understand, right? Because sentence diagramming is always positive, and the not is an adverb telling you when. When do they understand? They don't, never, not. But do understand is my transitive, and then this whole thing is my direct object. Now, this is interesting because you're looking at why as your subordinating conjunction here, connecting the sentences, the clause to the rest of the sentence, and then others is my subject, and then would lie is an intransitive verb. So I have a noun clause that's a sitva inside a Steve Doe. Right? So this is the inception chapter, if you will, where you start having sections within sections within sections. And this can get crazy. You can have multiples. Any place you can put a noun, you can put a noun clause. So, all right. What about Jason tries? What does he try? He tries to explain why he creates stories. So you're looking at this one's going to get fun. So we have Jason as my subject. He tries. That's my transitive verb. And then he tries this whole thing to explain why he creates stories. This massive thing is all my direct object. But it starts with to explain. So we have an infinitive. And then that infinitive has an object. And the object of the infinitive happens to be a noun clause. So the whole thing is he creates stories. So that's a Steve Doe acting as the object of the infinitive to explain that whole clause, right, is the direct object inside a Steve Doe. Leave room when we diagram that. It's going to be messy. Gwen considered what Jason said a compliment. So in this case, you're going to have your, why is this here? This is my indirect. Yeah, noun clauses can be indirect objects. My pictures got swapped. So what happened to my direct object? It just got dropped. Okay, well here you get an extra indirect object in the wrong space. This was supposed to be something else. Okay, well, let's go through it anyway. We have Gwen considered what Jason said a compliment. So she considered the compliment and then what Jason said. So now this is fun, what Jason said, because really your subject is Jason. He said a thing. That's my dog whining in the background. Sorry, someone is coming home. And then it's Jason said a thing. And what is it that Jason said? He said what? So you have to rearrange this so that it becomes, Jason said what in order for it to be a noun clause in that subject, transitive verb, direct object order that we are expecting. Okay. Alexander offered whoever appreciated him a sincere thanks. So again, we have Alexander. He is offering a thing. He's offering the thanks. That's my object. And then he offers the thanks to whoever appreciated him. So in this case, whoever subject appreciated transitive verb, him, direct object. And that whole thing happens to be my indirect object. All right. Same thing. Fred gives what Jason said some serious thought. So Fred gives thought. That is my direct object. What Jason said. And again, we're going to go, Jason said what? We're going to do this again later on when we get to questions. The way that you deal with questions when you're diagramming is you answer them and you flip them around. So what Jason said would become Jason said what. So in this case, we have a noun clause acting as the indirect object in the middle of the sentence. So it's a Steve Doe, sort of out of order, in the middle of a bigger Steve Doe. Noun clauses can also be objects of the preposition. So you just put them, with Fred rarely disagreed with what Jason said. So with being your preposition, so we know this is introducing a prepositional phrase. And then Jason said what? We like that. It was good to just keep it going. So with Jason said what as part of the preposition. Or Galaxy Quest is a perfect movie for whoever loves the original Star Trek. That was very true. But for is introducing my prepositional phrase. So for, and then whoever, subject, loves, transitive verb, original Star Trek. Star Trek being the direct object. So you have a Steve Doe in the middle of a Slivisk. Actually, you have a Steve Doe as part of a prepositional phrase. It's just the object of the prepositional phrase. So noun clauses can do that. Oh, they can also be appositives. Yeah, they can rename things. Remember, all the noun things are open to noun clauses. So the truth that the historical documents are actually TV shows shocks the Thermians. So your sentence is truth shocks Thermians. So it's a big Steve Doe. But that the historical documents are TV shows is going to be a Slivisk, right? Documents are TV shows. And then that whole thing is going to be the appositive, so it will go inside your parentheses. And that is actually an expletive, and we'll talk about how to diagram that in a minute. Same thing, Saris taunts Jason with his responsibilities. So we have the object of a preposition, and then that object is being renamed with an appositive noun clause. Good times. And these are his responsibilities, right? That the captain should know every bolt on his ship. So captain should know bolt. So we have a Steve Doe here as an appositive, right? Steve Doe with prepositional phrase again. And then that whole thing is renaming the responsibilities, which is also the object of a prepositional phrase. Okay, now we're ready to diagram. You need so much room because things are going to go sideways. They're going to go vertically, and they're going to just explode all over your page. So the way you do this is, remember, it's a clause. So it's going to get its own line. And then you're going to take that whole diagram for the clause and you're going to attach it to your rest of your diagram in the spot where it belongs. So if your noun clause is a subject, you diagram the noun clause, whoever wrote this episode, and then you put it in the subject section and you put it on a stand. Make your stand super tall when you're dealing with clauses. Make them so that they go above this dividing line. Otherwise, it gets crazy and you run out of room all the time. So just start making really, really tall stands. This little bottom of your stick figure people, make them super skinny and tall. And then that'll help you out. So you have enough room to diagram the sentence and then put it in the subject spot. Same thing like this one. You needed this one super tall. How they could fly the ship. They could fly it how. They could fly it efficiently. They could fly it without training. So you got a little gerund in here as the object of the preposition without in your prepositional phrase, telling you how, making it an adverb. So all of that stuff has to fit and somehow not, get involved with the rest of the lines of your sentence. So I could probably have given you a little more space here to show that the without training is just part of the noun clause acting as the subject. All right, Jason's problem. Ooh, okay, so this is our first expletive. If you want to see literally, visually, how useless that word that is, here's how you diagram it. You literally put it on a horizontal line, you put the word, and then you just dotted line it to be like, it's here. It's not doing anything at all. It's just hanging out. So this is it. You just put it on a line with a dotted line and you put it in front of wherever it goes so that he doesn't think of others. And this is, remember, your subject complement here. And then you just kind of float your that on a line. All right, so we've got Balthazar's moment is, and then he brings the crew to help, and then brings when. When does he bring them? All right. What else? Thermians do understand. They don't understand. Others would lie. Why? So why is an adverb here? Goes underneath. So again, this is subject complement, subject complement, subject complement. Moving on, if we have direct objects, right? Jason tries to explain why he creates stories. Okay, so Jason's subject tries, transitive verb. This is my whole direct object. He tries to explain a thing. And then that thing happens to be the object of the infinitive, right? But it's also a clause. It's a noun clause. So he creates stories. Why? So this whole idea is the object of the infinitive to explain, and that whole construction is acting as the direct object. Gwen considered complement, and then this is my indirect object, right? Jason said, what? So we have Jason said, and then what is my direct object? And that whole thing is the indirect object. Noun clause acting as indirect. Alexander offered whoever appreciated him a thanks, so he offered the thanks. It was a thanks, a sincere thanks. And he offered it to whoever appreciated him. So that whole thing, indirect object down there. Fred gives what Jason said. So we're like, Jason said what? He gives it some thought. So we're very similar. And then here's the Jason said what, but as the object of the preposition what. He disagreed with, right? With what Jason said. So that's how you deal with noun clauses when they're indirect objects or objects of prepositions. And then here's another one. Galaxy Quest is movie. It's a movie. It's a perfect movie. And it's a good movie for who? For whoever loves the original Star Trek. So whoever loves Star Trek is a noun clause. It is the object of the preposition for, and that whole thing is describing the movie. Okay. Now we have the truth. So now, all right, sometimes the positives are your friend because they go inside these parentheses, and sometimes you struggle and you got to make your lines really big to fit the thing in. When you have a noun clause, all you need is the bottom of the stand to fit into your positive. And then you have all the space up top to, show the rest of the sentence. So when it's a noun clause, as in a positive, it makes your life easier space-wise. But you've got truth, shocks, thermians, right? Direct object. And then documents are shows, and they are actually shows, and they're historical documents. So that whole thing is my noun clause, renaming the truth. And then I have a floating that. My page isn't big enough, but if you open your document, this is a dotted line. That has a dotted line here. It's just the vision, or the display that I have on right now isn't going to show it because it's smaller. If you look down here, this one came through where it's dotted, but that vertical line should be dotted. That line underneath is horizontal, which is a straight line, but the vertical one gets dotted to show it's an expletive. All right, this one right here. So look at how much space you need. So you have a with, he taunts him with a thing. He taunts him with his responsibilities, and then his responsibilities are that the captain should know, everything about his ship. And then you've got, an expletive that. And that whole thing is a Steve Doe, and it's in a positive, renaming responsibilities, which is the object of a prepositional phrase. So, generally speaking, noun clauses, you'll have a subject and a verb, and they're going to perform a grammatical function. You cannot get rid of them without significantly affecting the sentence. Whereas with other clauses, right, adverb clauses, you can flip them around and the sentence still works. Adjective clauses need to stay where they are. Otherwise, the sentence gets weird and you have like Moose driving cars and stuff. But noun clauses perform vital functions. And if you remove them, then the sentence stops working. Now, you can take a minute and practice 6C, but what I want to show you is the review. Okay, this is the review of chapter 6, all of it, right? So you've got your adverb clauses, you diagram them verb to verb. Your adjective clause, they go off of whatever they are modifying. And then your noun clauses can go anywhere that nouns can go. So they can do this, that, the other thing. And that is chapter 6, C, but you're ready for exercise 6R. And enjoy the clauses.